Hey everyone, it's Kelly from Silly Moon Quilting Co. Today you'll see we've got a variety of circle type rulers, and I'm going to show you how to do a clamshell using all of these different rulers. We've had quite a few questions as to what the best option is and what different size options you can create clamshells with. So I'm going to go over each one of these rulers individually and just show you really quickly how to do perfect clamshells every single time. So the first clamshell we're going to use our Cheezie ruler. So you'll see there's a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1.5 inch. Those are stitched lines. If you're not familiar with our Cheezie rulers, that it will give you a stitched 1.5 inch circle. So let's see what a clamshell looks like using that ruler. So I've got my ruler on my line. I'm using the registration lines on the side of the circle here and here, and we're going to start with the 1.5 inch, knowing that you can do this with all 4 of these sizes. So I'm going to bring my ruler foot down, lock my stitches. Of course, if you were doing an actual show quilt or something, you would probably want to do that a little bit different and bring your thread up. So I'm going to hold on to my ruler. I've got my sticky tape on there to help me move everything as one unit. And that comes with all our rulers. So I've got my first half circle. I'm going to slide my ruler along and make sure that I'm lining everything up there. I keep going until I run out of room. This is going to be your first line, and you can do this with the ruler the other way, so you could do it this side if that makes you more comfortable, being able to see a little better. So I'm going to stitch until I run out of room there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm just going to use the edge of my ruler because I need to now stitch up. We're going to call this line that I've drawn here my ditch. And I'm going to stitch up my ditch. Now I want to stay square going up this edge, so I'm going to use this line and this line on this seam to make sure that I stay nice and square. And I'm going to look at roughly, I need to be at least this distance again from the top of this clamshell. So I'm going to slowly go up there, and I'm going to stop about there just to kind of see where I end up as far as orientation. I'm going to lift my ruler foot, slide this back under again. Now what I need to do is I need to make sure that the center line here, indicating the center of the circle, is on my ditch in behind here, or my seam against my ruler foot, and it is. But the other thing I want to make sure is I want to make sure that this line here is on top of the row I just stitched. So that's this line here. When you're working with Cheezie, remember that these lines aren't always the same. So if you're using a different size circle, make sure you're using the line that is adjacent to the circle that you're using. So I've gone a little bit too far, so I'm just going to take a couple stitches back. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm lined up. And you may want to make sure you're a little bit taller for this. Look above to make sure that you're lined up on that seam. And then I'm going to stitch back and come back down and around. And that's going to end in the center of this line here. I'm going to slide this along. Again, I'm checking to make sure I'm lined up here and lined up here. Back to my center. And just like that, break the thread there and show you. We have perfect little clamshells using Cheezie. Now let's get on to our next ruler. So the next ruler we're going to use to do clamshells is our 4-inch solid circle. And this is a ruler that you can purchase within our snowman set. So it's a 3-inch, a 4-inch, and a 5-inch circle. So I'm going to show you how to do clamshells with this one. Again, all of the rulers in that set work the same way. I've got another line marked here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. This one we're stitching on the outside of the circle, so it's a little bit different. I'm going to lock my stitches here, and I'm going to line up the line on here under the word Silly Moon Quilting Co. That's my center line. So I'm going to line that up on my seam here, and I'm simply going to hold on to my ruler and start stitching around the edge. And make sure you stop when you're feeling that your hands are out of control or you don't have control of your fabric. Stop there. Adjust my fabric a little bit. Slide my ruler over, and same thing. Stitch around the outside. So this is going to create half of a 4-inch circle. So from here to here is 4 inches, but from here to here is only 2 inches. So now to do my second row, I'm going to again stitch straight up that edge. And I don't have a straight edge when I'm using this, so I'm going to use one that I happen to have that's handy. And I'm just going to use my Gemini ruler to use as a straight edge. I'm going to stitch up, lining up these lines. So use what you have to create that straight edge. So I'm using the lines on the 2-inch circle to do that. And then I'm going to stitch up. And again, I need to now figure out how to get in the center of this. I want my stitches to end up in the center. And it's very much the same. So I'm using the center line of the circle. And I want to make sure that the line I used previously, and stitch a little bit more, is on top of the clamshell that I just stitched. So this line here is on top of the clamshell I just stitched. Make sure your fabric is nice and square and that your center line is lined up. And I'm going to hold it down nice and secure. And stop when I get to my center, and then I'm going to slide my ruler along. Hold on to everything nice and tight again. Keep making sure you've got your sticky tape on there to keep the ruler nice and flat. And then I'm going to go to there, and then we will go all the way to the end and stop at the top. So break the thread there again, so you can see that's creating a larger clamshell. So again, it's 4 inches from here to here and 2 inches from here to here because we're using the half circle. And this is part of our snowman set. So if you like the bigger circles and you like stitching around the outside, that's a really good option for you as well. So I'm going to show you one more. I had shown at the beginning Gemini, but basically it's the same as Cheezie. It's just bigger circles. So with the Cheezie ruler, you've got circles from 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and then we go up to 2 inch and 2.5 for Gemini. So same basic principle, but I did want to show you one more way to do clamshells, and that's using our Beanie ruler. So our Beanie set, which is 4 rulers, allows you to do circles from 1 inch all the way up to 8 inches using just the 4 rulers. And the inside here, you can see this ruler is named 6'2", Beanie 6'2". So what that means is the inside, if I complete the full circle, it will be a 2-inch diameter circle. The 6-inch is if I use the outside of the curve, and that's going to give me a full 6-inch circle. So let's see what it looks like to do a 2-inch clamshell using this ruler, and then we'll switch to a 6-inch clamshell as well using the same ruler. So I'm going back to another line that I have marked here. I like to work behind the ruler foot. I just find it easier, but you are welcome to work with it this way. And I actually have another video on my channel that if you want to see that, you can go ahead and do that. I'm doing it that way. So I'm going to line up the line that is between the holes on the ruler, or that goes through. I'm going to line up the line that goes through the hole on the ruler. That is my main reference line for all of the beanies. So I'm going to line that up on my seam. I'm going to come over to my line, and again, I'm going to cheat and just lock my stitches. And then I'm going to go up and around. Stop when I get there. And go a little bit further. And that's giving me a different clamshell. So that's going to be 1 inch from the seam to the top of the clamshell and 2 inch from side to side. And then I'm going to go right to my seam here. So I'm going to stop when I get here. So it worked out that that is the center of my clamshell. So this line here. So because we ended up here, right in the center part, we are now going to just slide our ruler along until this center line, the line going through the hole the other direction, is in line with this valley. And this line on here is in line with the top of our last row. So then I can go ahead and just start stitching. And that'll take me back the other way. And I can slide my ruler along, make sure I adjust my fabric and make sure I'm nice and flat, that I'm using that line on top of the line I just stitched. And we'll do one more. And I'm just going to break my thread there to show you. So that's another way to do the clamshell using the beanie. So what about... So we're going to use the outside of the Beanie 6.2. We just finished these 2 inch clamshells. So from here to here is 2 inches, here to here is 1. We're going to now do a clamshell within a clamshell. So we're going to start by showing you how to do the outside part of the clamshell. So the 6 inch part. So I'm going to just lock my stitches again, just like all the other ones. Do a quick lock. And again, I'm using the line that goes through the hole this way and this way to make sure that I'm lined up well on my seam or marked line. Start with a good reference line. And I'm going to go around the outside of the Beanie 6.2. I'm going to stop when I need to. And then I'm going to go over one more. And I'm going to stop there. Now to keep this video short, I'm just going to show you 2 and then I'll show you how to do the next row and get one in there. So I've now done my 6 inch video or 6 inch circle. So what I want to do is I want to just figure out where the center of this is. And of course I can go ahead and mark each one. But we just need to mark one, and I don't have a pen here, so I'm just going to go like this. I just need to make a little indent so I know where my center line is, and I'm just going to do it on this side too, and you can just use whatever you've got to just make a little indent, because what we're going to do is we're going to move our ruler out of the way a little bit and stitch in the ditch going this direction. And now we're going to be using the inside of the ruler. So we need to bring that center back to match there, but we're going to be using the 2 inch section of this ruler. So I'm just going to stitch in my ditch. You can use the edge of a ruler or edgy, whichever works for you. And I'm keeping in mind that I need to keep the line that goes through the holes on here. So I'm continually stitching that way until I reach where all 3 points line up. So a little bit more. There's my marked line and there's my center. So I'm going to stitch a little bit more. Now I'm all lined up. So I'm lined up in my center here, and I'm lined up on my seam here. So I can go ahead then and stitch this way. So that's one, and now I'm just going to continue, and I'm going to actually use the edge of edgy 6 so I stay nice and straight. Or sorry, not edgy 6, Gemini. And I'm going to stop when I get to here because I need to again do a quick measurement and figure out where I am in the center. Now, if you want at the beginning, when you do this, you can go ahead and create a grid across here. So if you know that the biggest circle you're going to do is 6 inches, you can draw a line every 3 inches, and then you'll know where your center is. So from here to here is 3 inches, from here to here is 3 inches, and then from here to the center of this one is 3 inches. So you can go ahead and do that all the way along your quilt, and that means you don't have to stop and find that center. So I need to again stitch along until I line up there. I'm going to use my ruler here just to give me a bit of a guide. And then check where I am. Again, line through the holes is centered there. Stitch a little bit more. Slide this along, do a little bit more. And then I'm going to come back up and around. So I'm going to break my thread there and just show you what that looks like. So now I've got 2 circles, a clamshell within a clamshell. So there's my 6-inch and my 2-inch. So what I want to do now to create the second line so that it looks the same is I'm going to go back to where I started, and that is right here. So I would have stitched along that edge until I reach that point. I'm going to then use the edge or edgy 6 or edgy 10 or whatever ruler you have that's straight so that you can make sure you're lined up nice and square. That's the key. And I'm going to stitch up. And I'm going to check my line and see where I am. So I know that I need to be in the center here. But I also know that this line needs to be on top of here. So I've got quite a ways to go. So for that distance, I'm going to actually continue and use my straight edge here. And then I'm going to stop. And again, if you have edgy 6, you can do that. Now, if you're doing this overall a quilt, you're not going to be starting and stopping quite so much. You're going to have a better area that you're going to continue. So you can see now I've got just a little bit left to go here. I've got like 1/4 of an inch to go. So I'm just going to stitch that by hand. I'm going to slide this up. My center line is here and my line is on top of the line I just stitched. And then I'm going to come back and around, holding on to everything nice and tight. And that's going to bring me back to my center. Now, the advantage of marking your quilt, like I said before, every 3 inches, is that also gives you another guide here as to where you're going to end that stitch. So I'm going to take my ruler, and now I'm using the full 6 inches. So I'm going here. My line is on top of my stitch line, and my line is on top of my stitched line here. And then I'm going to hold on to this and come back and around. And stop there. Readjust as you need to. Stop there. And then I will do another half clamshell. So now I've done 1.5 or 2 clamshells actually. But what I need to do is, this is my center point. So I know now that that's the center point of where I need to start this one here. So I just need to stitch down this distance. And again, I want things to be nice and lined up. So I'm going to use a straight edge. And again, you can use edgy 6. Use the lines that you have on your rulers to make sure you're nice and square. And I'm thinking we're about there. Then I'm going to bring my ruler back a little bit further because I need to have this line lined up on this seam here, right? I need to go a little bit further because I need to make sure that this line, I want my ruler sitting like this on this line, right? So that I can do the inside and have it match this. So I need to go a little bit further. And then I'm going to double check where I am here. And I need my center line lined up there, and I need this line lined up on top of the row I just stitched, and I'm good. So I'm going to go to there. Now what's important is you don't want to stitch down all the way to this line. you want to stitch just across. So when I finish here, I'm just going to stitch across to that point there where I started. And then I'm going to carry along, knowing that my center mark is right here now. I don't need to mark it because I've got one there, and that's enough of a reference for me. Again, if you've marked your quilt, it'll be a little bit more accurate, and you'll know where you need to be. So I'm going to line that up there, and I need to go a little bit further. Lining up that on top of my clamshell. So while you do see the line, it just creates a different kind of design. I think it's kind of cool. Make sure you're nice and square there. And again, I'm going to stitch part way in, knowing that that's my center. And I'm going to hold that. I have to stitch a little further. A couple more stitches. And I'm going to lock my stitches there and show you. So you do end up with like half rainbows almost. You have a stitch line across there. You could prevent that by breaking your thread if you want, but I kind of like that because it creates a secondary design in there. So again, you're doing your outside, coming over, back to your inside, stitch over, inside again, lining up your centers, then up to your outside, 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 and then down, and then inside, across, inside, across, inside, across. So those are a few different ways that you can use or create different types of clamshells using our Cheezie, Gemini, Beanie, and our solid circle part of our snowman set rulers. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give us the thumbs up and subscribe to our videos. That would be greatly appreciated. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Mm-hmm.